St. April, a man named Victor Fetz from Georgia, did something millions of people dream about. He retired. After decades as a senior director of risk management at Verizon, he finally stepped away from his desk. He was 54 years old. He had saved carefully. He had done everything right. 1 week later, he checked his 401k. In just 2 days, $58,000 had vanished from his retirement account. "If that continues," he said, "I cannot stay retired." Victor is not alone. When the market dropped last spring in response to new trade policies, Americans watched $6.6 trillion disappear from their accounts in just 48 hours. That was the largest two-day drop in stock market history. Another retiree, a 68-year-old woman from New Jersey named Paula, told reporters, "I am just kind of stunned. With so much money in the market, we just have to hope we have enough time to recover." But here is the uncomfortable truth that I need you to understand right now, at the start of this video. Hope is not a retirement strategy. And the forces that can destroy your retirement savings are not just market crashes. They are not just one bad week or one bad month. There are silent killers working against your money every single day that most people never see coming until it is too late. Today, I am going to show you exactly what those threats are. More importantly, I am going to show you what you can do about them. I am going to break down the specific steps that can protect your retirement from being wiped out, whether you are 25 or 65. But first, you need to understand something that changes everything about how you should think about your retirement money. Your retirement account does not just sit there waiting for you. It is under constant attack. And the attackers do not look like what you might expect. Let me explain. Most people think the biggest danger to their retirement is a stock market crash. And yes, crashes are devastating. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, the average 401k balance fell by 24 to 35%. Total losses across all retirement accounts reached $2.4 trillion in just the final 2 quarters of that year. The dot-com crash from 2000 to 2002 saw the S&P 500 fall by 49%. People who had their retirement heavily invested in technology stocks watched their life savings get cut in half. These crashes are dramatic. They make headlines. They terrify people. But here is what nobody tells you. There is a threat to your retirement that is far more dangerous than any market crash. It does not make headlines. It does not happen in a single day. Instead, it works slowly, quietly, invisibly, year after year, decade after decade. And it has already started eating away at your savings right now as you watch this video. That threat is inflation. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors who ever lived, calls inflation a silent thief. He says it acts like a termite, slowly eating away at the foundation of your wealth while you are not paying attention. And he is right. Let me show you exactly how dangerous this is. Imagine you have $1 million saved for retirement. You feel comfortable. You think you have enough. Now imagine inflation averages just 3% per year. That is actually lower than the historical average. At 3% inflation, your $1 million retains only about $742,000 of purchasing power after just 10 years. You did not spend a dime. You did not lose money in the market, but the value of your savings dropped by over $250,000. After 20 years at 3% inflation, that $1 million has the purchasing power of about $550,000. After 30 years, it is worth about $412,000 in today's money. Your account balance still says $1 million, but what that money can actually buy has been cut by more than half. Now here is where this gets truly frightening. The U.S. inflation rate hit 2.7% for the 12 months ending December 2025. But that is the average across everything. The things you actually need in retirement often rise much faster. Healthcare costs are projected to rise at 5.6% annually through 2032. That is more than double the overall inflation rate. And healthcare is one of the biggest expenses for retirees. Here is a number that should keep you up at night. According to Fidelity's 2025 Retiree Healthcare Cost Estimate, a 65-year-old individual may need $172,500 in after-tax savings just to cover healthcare expenses in retirement. And that does not include long-term care. Housing, food, energy, all of these essentials have been rising faster than many people's savings can keep up with. Social Security benefits lost about 20% of their buying power between 2010 and 2024, according to the Nonpartisan Senior Citizens League. 20% gone. Not because of cuts, but because inflation outpaced the cost of living adjustments. This is the first silent killer, and I'm going to show you exactly how to fight it. But first, you need to understand the second threat, which is almost as dangerous. Here is a scenario that terrifies financial planners. You spend 40 years saving for retirement. You do everything right. You max out your contributions, you get your employer match, you watch your balance grow year after year. Then, on the very first day of your retirement, the market crashes. This is not a hypothetical. This is what happened to many people who retired in early 2025 during the market volatility. This is what happened to people who retired in March 2020 when COVID hit. This is what happened to people who retired in 2008. There is a name for this nightmare scenario. It is called sequence of returns risk, and it is one of the most dangerous threats to your retirement that almost nobody talks about. Let me explain why this is so devastating. When you are working and saving for retirement, a market crash actually helps you. You are buying stocks at lower prices. When the market recovers, you benefit from that growth. But once you retire, everything changes. In retirement, you need to withdraw money from your accounts to live. If the market drops 30% in your first year of retirement and you need to withdraw 4% to pay your bills, you are not just losing money to the market, you are also selling your investments at their lowest point. A recent analysis from Morningstar found that negative stock market returns in the first 5 years of retirement are the most likely to increase your chance of outliving your money. Here is how the math works, and this is crucial to understand. Say you start retirement with $1 million. You plan to withdraw $40,000 per year. That is the famous 4% rule. In your first year, the market drops 20%. Your account drops from $1 million to $800,000. Now you need to withdraw your $40,000 to live. That leaves you with $760,000. But here is the problem. To get $40,000 from an account worth $800,000, you had to sell 5% of your portfolio, not 4%. You sold more shares than you planned because each share was worth less. Now you have fewer shares left. When the market eventually recovers, you have less to recover with. Research shows this can shorten a portfolio's lifespan by 5 to 10 years compared to the same returns in a different order. Two people can have the exact same average returns over 30 years. But if one person has bad returns at the start of retirement and the other has bad returns at the end, the first person might run out of money while the second person dies wealthy. The timing matters enormously, and you cannot control the timing. But here is what you can control. I will show you in a moment. First, the third silent killer. There is a threat hiding inside your retirement accounts that the government created. It is designed to force you to take money out of your accounts whether you want to or not. And it can push you into higher tax brackets, increase your Medicare premiums, and accelerate the depletion of your savings. This threat is called Required Minimum Distributions, or RMDs. Here is how they work. When you put money into a traditional 401k or traditional IRA, you got a tax deduction. The government let you avoid paying taxes on that money. But here's the deal. The government did not give up those taxes forever. They just delayed them. Starting at age 73, or 75 for those born in 1960 or later, you must start withdrawing a minimum amount from your tax-deferred retirement accounts every single year. This is not optional. If you do not take your full RMD, you face a penalty of 25% of the amount you should have withdrawn. In some cases, this can be reduced to 10% if you correct it quickly, but that is still a massive hit. Now, here is why RMDs can be so destructive. The amount you must withdraw is calculated by dividing your account balance by a life expectancy factor from IRS tables. The older you get, the larger the percentage you must withdraw. At age 73, you must withdraw about 3.8% of your account. By age 90, it is over 8%. By age 100, it can exceed 15%. Every dollar you withdraw from a traditional 401k or IRA is taxed as ordinary income. This can push you into a higher tax bracket. It can make up to 85% of your Social Security benefits taxable. And it can trigger something called IRMA, Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amounts, which increases your Medicare premiums. But the biggest problem is this. RMDs force you to take money out of your accounts even if you do not need it, even if the market is down, even if it is the worst possible time to sell. Remember that sequence of returns risk I just explained? RMDs make it worse. You cannot simply leave your money alone to recover. The government forces you to sell. I have a strategy to minimize this damage that I will share shortly. Now for the fourth and final silent killer. This one is counterintuitive. Most people think they are being smart when they fall into this trap. The threat is being too conservative with your investments. I know what you are thinking. How can being safe be dangerous? Here is the problem. When you put all your retirement savings into safe investments like bonds, CDs, or money market accounts, you feel protected. Your account balance does not swing wildly. You do not lose money when the market crashes. But remember what I said about inflation? It erodes your purchasing power every single year. If your investments do not grow faster than inflation, you are actually losing money in real terms. Historically, stocks have returned about 10 to 11% per year on average. Bonds have returned about 5 to 7%. CDs often return even less, sometimes 1 to 5%. After you subtract inflation, stocks have averaged around 5 to 7% real returns. Bonds have averaged 1.5 to 3% real returns. CDs have often delivered negative real returns, meaning after inflation, you actually lost purchasing power. Here is a concrete example of why this matters. Say you are 60 years old with $500,000 saved. You plan to retire at 65 and live another 25 years. You put everything in safe bonds, returning 5%. After inflation of 3%, your real return is 2%. Over 25 years, your money might not keep pace with rising costs. You could run short. But if you kept a portion in stocks averaging 8% returns, your real return would be 5%. That extra growth compounds over time and could mean the difference between running out of money at 85 and having a comfortable cushion. Simulations from financial researchers show that portfolios with 40 to 60% in stocks often sustain withdrawals longer than those heavily in bonds or CDs. Being too safe is itself a risk, and most people do not realize it until it is too late. All right, now you understand the 4 silent killers. 1. Inflation eating away at your purchasing power every single day. 2. Sequence of returns risk wiping out your savings if markets crash at the wrong time. 3. Required minimum distributions forcing you to withdraw money and pay taxes even when you do not want to. 4. Being too conservative and failing to grow your money faster than inflation. Now, I am going to give you the specific strategies to fight back against each one of these threats. These are the same strategies that the smartest investors use, and they work whether you have $10,000 saved or $10 million. Let me start with the most powerful one. Strategy number 1. Invest in assets that beat inflation over the long term. Warren Buffett has given advice on this that almost anyone can follow. In his 2013 letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders, he recommended that non-professional investors put 90% of their money in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund and 10% in short-term government bonds. Why does this work? Because over the long term, stocks have consistently beaten inflation. Not every year, not every decade, but over periods of 20, 30, 40 years, stocks have delivered returns that outpace rising prices. The key phrase here is low cost. Many people invest in mutual funds that charge 1% or more in annual fees. That might not sound like much, but over a lifetime, it can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Index funds that track the S&P 500 often charge less than 1/10 of 1%. That savings compounds just like your returns do. But here is the catch, and this is critical. You must have the discipline to stay invested even when markets crash. If you panic and sell at the bottom, you lock in your losses and miss the recovery. Historical data shows that the stock market has recovered from every major crash in history. The average bear market recovery takes about 3.5 years. If you can ride out the storm, history shows your portfolio will likely recover and continue growing. For younger investors, those in their 20s, 30s, even 40s, you have time on your side. Market crashes are actually buying opportunities. You are purchasing stocks at discount prices. For older investors approaching retirement, you need a different approach. That leads me to strategy number 2. Strategy number 2. Build a cash buffer to survive market downturns. Financial planners call this the bucket strategy. Here's how it works. You divide your retirement money into 3 buckets. Bucket 1 is your short-term money. This covers the next 1 to 2 years of living expenses. You keep this in safe, liquid investments. High-yield savings accounts, money market funds, short-term CDs. This money will not grow much, but it will not lose value either. Bucket 2 is your medium-term money. This covers years 3 through 10. You invest this more moderately, perhaps a mix of bonds and conservative stock funds. Bucket 3 is your long-term money. This covers year 10 and beyond. This is where you keep your growth investments, stock index funds, and other assets that can beat inflation over time. Why does this work? When the market crashes, you do not need to sell your stocks at the bottom. You live off bucket 1 while waiting for bucket 3 to recover. This eliminates the sequence of returns risk that destroys so many retirements. Financial advisors at Kiplinger recommend having at least 1 year of living expenses in safe, liquid investments, specifically to avoid selling stocks during downturns. You refill bucket 1 during good years when the market is up. You leave bucket 3 alone during bad years. Your money has time to recover before you need to touch it. This strategy requires discipline and planning. You need to know exactly how much you spend each year. You need to resist the temptation to invest that cash buffer when the market is booming. But if you stick with it, you dramatically reduce the risk of running out of money. Strategy number 3. Minimize your tax burden through Roth conversions. Remember those required minimum distributions I talked about? There is a legal way to avoid them entirely on a portion of your savings. The answer is Roth accounts. Traditional 401ks and traditional IRAs give you a tax deduction when you contribute, but you pay taxes when you withdraw, and you are forced to withdraw through RMDs starting at age 73. Roth 401ks and Roth IRAs work the opposite way. You do not get a tax deduction when you contribute. You pay taxes on that money now. But here is the benefit. When you withdraw in retirement, you pay 0 taxes on the growth, and you are never forced to take RMDs from a Roth IRA during your lifetime. If you are years away from retirement, contributing to Roth accounts now, especially if you are in a lower tax bracket, can save you enormous amounts in taxes later. But what if you already have money in traditional accounts? You can do what is called a Roth conversion. You move money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, pay taxes on the amount you convert, and then that money grows tax-free forever. The best time to do Roth conversions is during what financial planners call the gap years, the period after you retire, but before you start taking Social Security and before RMDs kick in. During these years, your income is often lower, so you can convert at a lower tax rate. Multiple studies show that this strategic approach to Roth conversions can reduce lifetime taxes by tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every dollar you convert is one less dollar subject to RMDs. One less dollar that will push you into a higher tax bracket. One less dollar that will increase your Medicare premiums. Strategy number 4, delay Social Security as long as possible. This might be the single most valuable piece of advice in this entire video, and most people ignore it. You can start collecting Social Security as early as age 62, but if you do, your benefit is permanently reduced by as much as 30% compared to waiting until your full retirement age. If you wait even longer, until age 70, your benefit increases by about 8% per year beyond your full retirement age. That is a guaranteed return. You cannot get that anywhere else with zero risk. But here is the part most people miss. Social Security is inflation protected. Every year, Social Security benefits receive a cost of living adjustment. When inflation goes up, your check goes up. This is one of the only sources of retirement income that automatically keeps pace with rising prices. So when you delay Social Security, you are not just getting a bigger check. You are getting a bigger inflation-protected check. That bigger base amount compounds every time there is a cost of living adjustment. Over a 25-year retirement, the difference between claiming at 62 versus 70 can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra benefits. Yes, you have to survive on your savings longer if you delay Social Security. That is why the bucket strategy is so important. Use your savings strategically in your early retirement years so you can maximize your guaranteed inflation-protected income for life. Strategy number 5, diversify beyond just stocks and bonds. I have talked a lot about stocks and bonds, but there are other assets that can help protect your retirement from inflation and market volatility. Treasury inflation-protected securities, or TIPS, are bonds issued by the U.S. government that automatically adjust for inflation. The principal value of these bonds goes up when the consumer price index goes up. They will not make you rich, but they protect a portion of your portfolio from inflation erosion. Real estate investment trusts, or REITs, own portfolios of income-producing properties. Real estate values and rental income typically rise with inflation, so REITs can serve as an inflation hedge. Many 401k plans offer REIT funds, or you can invest through ETFs in a brokerage account. Dividend-paying stocks from established companies can provide income that grows over time. Unlike bonds with fixed payments, companies that consistently raise their dividends give you increasing income as years go by. This is another way to fight inflation. The key is not to put all your eggs in one basket. A diversified portfolio that includes domestic stocks, international stocks, bonds, TIPS, REITs, and cash can weather different economic conditions better than a portfolio concentrated in just one or two asset classes. Strategy number 6, use qualified charitable distributions if you donate to charity. This is a little-known strategy that can save you significant money if you are charitably inclined. Once you reach age 70 and a half, you can make a qualified charitable distribution, or QCD, directly from your IRA to a qualified charity. The amount you give satisfies your required minimum distribution, but it does not count as taxable income. In 2025, you can give up to $108,000 through QCDs. If you are planning to donate to charity anyway, this is an incredibly tax-efficient way to do it. Here is why this matters. If you take a regular RMD, you pay taxes on it. Then you donate to charity and maybe get a tax deduction if you itemize. But many people do not itemize anymore since the standard deduction increased. With a QCD, the money goes straight to charity and never hits your tax return as income. No tax on the withdrawal. No need to itemize to get a benefit. It simply disappears from your taxable income entirely. If you are over 70 and a half and you give to charity, talk to your financial advisor about QCDs. This is money most people leave on the table. Strategy number 7, have a written financial plan and review it annually. This might sound obvious, but most people do not have an actual plan. They have hopes and assumptions. They have a vague idea of how much they want to save, but they do not have a concrete roadmap. A financial plan forces you to think through the details. How much do you actually spend each year? Not how much you think you spend, but how much you actually spend. Track it. What is your Social Security benefit at different claiming ages? Pull your statement from the Social Security Administration website. What are your required minimum distributions going to be at different ages? Run the numbers using your current balance and the IRS tables. What is your tax situation now, and what will it be in retirement? Are there opportunities for Roth conversions in lower income years? What happens if you need long-term care? This can easily cost $6,000 a month or more. How would you pay for it? What is your backup plan if the market drops 40% in your first year of retirement? A written plan answers all of these questions, and you review it every year to adjust for changes in your life and the economy. Studies consistently show that people who work with financial advisors or have comprehensive financial plans end up with significantly more retirement wealth than those who do not. The act of planning itself makes you more likely to take the right actions. Strategy number 8, do not panic. I saved this for last because it might be the most important. When the market crashes, and it will crash, multiple times during your investing lifetime, your emotions will scream at you to sell everything and hide in cash. This is exactly the wrong thing to do. Every major market crash in history has been followed by a recovery. The investors who stayed the course came out ahead. The investors who panicked and sold at the bottom locked in their losses and missed the recovery. Remember Victor Fettis, the man who lost $58,000 in 2 days? Here is what financial experts advised people like him. Do not make long-term decisions based on short-term news. If you have followed the strategies I have outlined, if you have a diversified portfolio, a cash buffer, a plan for Social Security, and a long-term mindset, then a market crash is not a crisis. It is a temporary setback in a decades-long journey. The people who get wiped out are the people who panic, the people who sell at the bottom, the people who abandon their plan at the worst possible moment. Do not be one of them. Let me summarize everything I have covered today. Your retirement faces 4 silent killers: inflation, sequence of returns risk, required minimum distributions, and being too conservative. To fight these threats, you need to 1. Invest in assets that beat inflation over the long term, primarily low-cost stock index funds for the portion you will not need for 10 or more years. 2. Build a bucket strategy with 1 to 2 years of cash to avoid selling stocks during market crashes. 3. Consider Roth conversions during low-income years to reduce future RMDs and taxes. 4. Delay Social Security as long as you can to maximize your inflation-protected income for life. 5. Diversify into TIPS, REITs, dividend stocks, and other assets that can hedge against inflation. 6. Use qualified charitable distributions if you donate to charity. 7. Have a written financial plan and review it every year. 8. Do not panic when markets crash. Stay the course. These strategies work whether you have 5 years until retirement or 50. The sooner you start, the better off you will be. There is one final point I want to make. The headline, "Retirement accounts will be wiped out," sounds scary. And yes, there are real risks. But the purpose of this video is not to frighten you. It is to empower you. The threats I have described are real, but they are not unstoppable. Millions of people retire comfortably every year. They do it by understanding the risks and taking smart, disciplined action to address them. Knowledge is power. Now you have the knowledge. The question is, what will you do with it? If you found this valuable, save this video so you can reference these strategies later. Share it with someone you care about who needs to hear this message. And most importantly, take action. Pick one strategy from this video and implement it this week. Then pick another one next month. Build your defense one piece at a time. Your future self will thank you.